everybody. Thank you so much for joining us in LiveFit Kitchen. We have a special guest today. We have Sherry. Yay! Thank you so much.
I'm so glad
for
to
joining
be here.
us. We have Sherry because we have Sherry's very favorite recipe. It's her friend Susie's salsa. So Sherry, take us through the salsa.
Okay. We call Susie Salsa Susie because every gathering we have, Susie is in charge of bringing the salsa and chips, but you can also serve this with so many things. You can.
You could use vegetables, and I know you
I
said
put it
you
on my eggs.
Mm-hmm.
If you make an omelet, it's wonderful. I throw it in soup, salad dressings, just about. It's almost always in my refrigerator. So
Is it salsa magic?
Yes, it is. It's
so
wonderful.
Tell us what's in it.
Okay, there is a large can of tomatoes. You can use whole tomatoes. You can use diced tomatoes. Alicia had crushed tomatoes, so that's fine too. No, it's okay. You can use any kind of tomatoes that you like. If you like a real chunky salsa, use a chunkier, use the diced or whole tomatoes even, and the blender will break them up. And then you use the diced green chilies, like the Ortega chilies, and about a third of a can. If you use the same type of can as the Ortega chilies for your jalapenos, about a third of a can. But you can also use the jarred jalapenos, which is actually what I have at home, or I also have a jalapeno plant in my backyard. So sometimes I will put fresh jalapeno in there.
Yum.
So, this is really flexible, but, I'm trying to stay as close to Susie's as possible. And then small bunch of green onions and a small bunch of cilantro with the large stems removed. You can use the large stems like in a stock or something like that if you want to just throw them in to flavor your stock.
I threw them away.
That's okay, but I mean, if you just don't want to waste them, you can throw them into flavor soups and then just fish them out afterwards if you like, or wrap them in some that gauze stuff that you can put in.
Put it
anyway,
in, cheesecloth, right.
And then as far as seasonings go, about garlic to taste, about a tablespoon if you're using the crushed garlic, or you can use the powdered garlic. Susie actually uses garlic salt, but I don't have garlic salt at home, so I use salt and garlic. Okay. And also crushed black pepper to taste.
Okay, so I know that some people are, very concerned about getting the quantities right. Honestly, I promise you, with salsa, you really can't get it wrong, right? No. I mean, you just kind of go with what you got. So we did use the fire roasted tomatoes that was suggested as being the preferred. And I thought, oh, brilliant, I've got a can in the cupboard, and I just grabbed them, not realizing that I had grabbed crushed and not diced. And apparently the diced does give you a little chunkier texture, which could be really nice. So next time I will use diced, but this time we have crushed. Now, with the green chilies, I have a 7-ounce can, and Sherry said that we'll use about half of this can. So you're looking at about 3.5 to 4 ounces, and then you can freeze the rest, right?
Yes, you can put it in a little Ziploc bag and flatten it out, put it in your freezer, and it's perfect for your next batch of salsa. And the same with the jalapenos, with the other, if you use the can of jalapenos and you have, what am I going to do with 2/3 of a can of jalapenos? Put them in, separate them out, put them in little Ziploc bags, and put them in the freezer, and they're perfect little packets to pull out to make your next batch.
Good, so you'll have it ready to go for next time. Okay, so because I had the jar at home, hello Willow darling, no jalapenos for you, we're going to use about 1/3 of a cup, just roughly chopped. And that'll be fairly spicy, because these are very hot jalapenos, so if you're not a big on spicy person, you might use a little less on your first batch. Oh, hello again, sweetheart.
Oh, sweetie.
So, here we go. Now this is really, really simple. Oh, sorry, by the way, before I leave quantities, if you're using a tablespoon of crushed garlic, that's quite a lot. That's for people who really love garlic, which would be me. Yeah. And that is approximately 6 cloves if you're using fresh. So that is a lot of garlic, but
you can,
super delicious.
You can adjust all of these things to your taste, which is what I love about this recipe. Because Susie's husband, Ray, loves it super, super spicy. He'd put the whole can of jalapenos in there. And my husband is like, can you put a little less jalapeno in? So, everybody has different taste buds. Just do it to your liking.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing too with removing the large stems from the cilantro, I basically just ripped the leaves off the stems really roughly. Don't worry about getting every last little bit off properly and whatever. Some stems ended up in there, some didn't. We just took off the biggest stems. So, you know, those really thick ones, the rest of it can all go in no problem. And for the bunch of green onions, there were 6 in the bunch that I purchased. So I hoped that that was correct.
That should be just fine. And as far as the smaller stems on the cilantro, the blender will break them up, and they add a lot of flavor, so and nutrition. So, you know, and one thing I did want to mention, I don't know if you were going to mention it, about the canned tomatoes. A lot of people are, you know, when you're trying to eat healthier, are wanting to use as much fresh food as you can.
Absolutely.
Canned tomatoes, I did a little research on it. They are just as high in nutrients, if not even a little higher, since they're packed right away, than even the fresh tomatoes. Plus, this keeps in your refrigerator a lot longer because, you know, fresh tomatoes, like if you make a pico de gallo type of salsa, it's delicious, but in a day or two, it's inedible. This will actually last in your refrigerator for a week or two. So, and I just make a big batch, and I just keep spooning it out all the time. So.
And you guys know me, I always go fresh over canned. But what I did like about this recipe is if you're in part of the country right now where maybe there's not as much access to fresh foods because of, you know, weather problems and things like that, this is really a very healthy recipe that you can get most of it just off the shelves in the market, you know, obviously other than the cilantro and the green onion. So I did think this was a pretty good alternative for, you know, if your shopping choices are limited this time of year. This is a really healthy recipe. Okay, so let's get started putting it together then. We're using the blender. You can use a food processor too, but Sherry told me that food processors sometimes, you know, bits fall to the bottom, you get mushy bits and whatever. So you said the blender was going to work a lot better.
And they can leak at the bottom too. If you have too much liquid in, you know, a food processor might tend to leak. So a blender works really good. You can also use an immersion blender, you know, the hand blenders.
Oh,
you know, if, but I like using the regular blender because it does get a little saucy and it could go flying.
Yeah. You know what I did just realize? Oh, Jason plugged the blender in for me. Thank you, Jason. Isn't he awesome? Okay, so you said to put the cilantro in first. Was that correct?
I put the cilantro and the green onions in first. And just kind of blend those a little bit, get them.
So you can see this is really, missed a big stem there, quite a bit of cilantro.
And cilantro is another thing. Some people love cilantro. I love cilantro, and some people are not big cilantro fans, so you can adjust that down as well.
Okay, so in go the cilantro and the green onions. Let's see if Willow likes it.
That's good for you, Willow.
Oh, yep, down the hatch. Look at that. Okay, so turn the sound down on your computer right now if you need to, because this thing is horribly loud. Now, you said to just pulse it, right?
Yeah, I just pulse it at this point.
Okay, so sound down. Here we go.
You might want to add just a little bit of the tomatoes for some liquid.
Okay.
Different blenders, different. Yeah.
So just a little for liquid.
You might want to just give it a quick stir with the spoon to get some of that liquid down there.
Somebody's pretty interested in this.
What you making, Mom?
Willow always gets some of whatever goes on in the kitchen, so look at you licking your chops. Try and keep your face off the cutting board, okay? All right, here we go. Noise time again.
Go ahead and just hit the stir and see if it...
Okay, for some reason mine doesn't want to chop it all up like yours does, but we're getting there. Some of the bottom stuff is going.
You can always add, just
add
go
a little
ahead
more
and throw
liquid?
the tomatoes in.
Okay, so whole can?
Why not? Doesn't hurt.
Okay, so this can of tomatoes was a 1 pound 12 ounce can, or 28 ounces total. Okay, we'll see if this will work a bit better. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. I love these tomatoes.
Oh, I know. The fire roasted tomatoes just add such a nice flavor to it. There you go. That'll be good.
Okay, is that good or a
I
little
think
more?
that should be fine because you're going to pulse it a little bit more when you add the other ingredients. So,
Okay, so what's next then?
I would just start adding your
put it all in?
chilies and
Okay, now you said a half a can
about
or
a half a can or so of that. That'd be great.
so. I'm glad I checked at the last moment. I nearly dumped the whole lot in.
Well, they're mild, so if you really like green chilies, which I happen to like, you might want to go ahead and dump the whole can in, but and then you can
put
go
those
ahead and
in
put
as
some
well?
of your jalapenos in.
There we go. We're going for hot here today. Okay, so put those down in there and then hit pulse again.
Mm-hmm.
It's really strange. I thought my blender was as loud as the food processor attachment, but it's not. This is not as obnoxious as
A
I
little
thought.
quieter. That's good.
Is that
Okay,
good?
And now just go ahead and do your seasonings.
Okay, so garlic was next, and we're going to use about a tablespoon. Whoops, off to Trader Joe's again. I'm nearly out.
Or a heaping teaspoon is good too, so that looks good. I usually use the powdered garlic that has the little flecks of parsley in it, and regular salt. But Susie, if you want to be technical, Susie uses garlic salt. So
Okay, so pretty big pinch of salt there, maybe as much as a half a teaspoon just went in.
yeah, and then you might even
more?
adjust it a little bit more. I
little
like
more?
it a little salty, not too salty because you don't want to go overboard on the sodium, and there is sodium in the with the tomatoes, but salsa is a little zippier if it's got a little salty
bit more
taste
salt.
to it.
Okay, live and learn. I've never done this before. Love this.
That should be good.
That's
And then
it?
did you add some pepper
I
already?
did add
Okay.
pepper, yep.
'Cause I put a lot of pepper in and I didn't notice. So
Yeah, I was busy grinding the pepper there.
while we
Oh,
were
look at
chatting
this.
away.
Okay.
Okay. Now before you take it out of the blender, why don't you give it a taste and see?
Oh, good idea.
Yeah.
Taste it before I take it out. Well, actually, you know what? You should taste it because you're the one that knows.
It's very good.
Does it need anything else?
Maybe just a little more pepper.
Okay.
And the jalapenos give it a real good spice. And just a tiny bit more salt.
Okay. Too much kick for you?
No, it's good for me.
Okay, here we go. So one more set on the pulsing.
That's good.
Okay. Different spoon. Tasting it again.
That tastes pretty good to
We
me.
got there? Awesome. I'm going to wipe off the spoon I used for the chilies and use that for myself. Obviously at home I have no issues with double dipping, but I thought, we're on camera, maybe I shouldn't. Oh, I totally see why that's so popular. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I would be putting this on an omelette. In fact, maybe later this morning. That is really good. Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you to Susie. Thank you, Willow, for joining us. When
Thank
she
you,
sits
Willow.
down like that and looks at me, that's when she thinks she's getting a treat. So let's give her a little more cilantro. And thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye, LiveFit Nation.